Today we have on Chris Brisson. I hope I said that right.
Yeah, we're
All
good.
right, cool. And he was Marketer of the Year by Infusionsoft in the online sales category. So still a very big, huge deal. He is the co-founder of CallLoop and Automize, which can be found at automizeit.com. And Automize is kind of the umbrella company, the 37 Signals, if you will, that owns a few different software companies. Now, Call Loop, people reference it as MailChimp for mobile messaging, and we have a stat here, 85% of texts get open within 15 minutes. So if you listen to the Joy Troyer interview, then you know that we like text messages here, but that's kind of why it's relevant, and if you don't realize it is. Now, he recently launched a killer campaign which focuses on turnkey marketing systems and kind of came out of his Infusionsoft slide deck, if you will, that won him the Marketer of the Year. So, Chris, I'm interested. You've done a lot of different things, and I'm going to kind of touch on your past briefly as well. But that it was almost an MVP to go from the slide deck and the Infusionsoft to killer campaigns. How did that kind of look?
Yeah, I guess to make a long story short is with Call Loop, like we were originally building when we first had the idea for Call Loop in 2000, early 2010. We started just kind of scrappily putting it together. So we used Aweber, we used One Shopping Cart, we used Has Offers for the affiliate program, we used A-Member, we used all these just hodgepodge systems of what I was used to before, and just to get something going. And realizing that wow, this is actually going to be a lot bigger of a business than I thought. Let's actually build it right. And so we put everything on Infusionsoft, and it was thank God, because I don't know if we would have had a business today. And so, just looking at some of the best companies in the world, like Amazon and GoDaddy and Apple and Zynga and Zappos, they all are kind of known for just a strategy, right? So Zappos is known for customer support or customer service and wowing their customers. Apple's known for in-app purchases. If you buy anything from Apple, you have to have your credit card on file. So with one click, you can buy anything. And so we wanted to do all these different strategies, from GoDaddy with cart abandons, with Amazon with one-click purchases and one-click upsells. And with Infusion, it allowed us to do that. And so we built all of these systems inside of Call Loop. So with one click, you can purchase a keyword or buy credits. Once we have your card on file, we didn't need to ask you again for it. And so, just building this stuff in our business. And so when I won the Ultimate Marketer for online sales last year in 2013, a lot of people just came to me and said, "Hey, I want these campaigns. Do you have them available? How do I buy them?" And that was actually the slide deck that I gave to Infusionsoft to win the award. Literally, I was in San Francisco at the time, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this thing is due like tonight." So I work well under pressure, probably like a lot of people, and so I kind of whipped it all together. I kind of knew what I wanted to say, and so from that, obviously went on to win that award. But anyhow, a lot of people started asking for it. And I remember it was October of 2000, I don't know, I think last year, 2012 maybe? Yeah, a while ago. And I was like, well, let me just try and sell this webinar campaign. And, you talk about MVP, it was just like, okay, well, let me go and sell this webinar campaign. So I literally put together and threw together a webinar, put it out there, and I think I had maybe 30 people sign up. And I sold like 2 of these webinar things at $1,500. And I was like, all right, like this is pretty cool. And it was a done-for-you webinar service. So we would go in there, we would build the campaign in their account, we would set it all up and set up the emails and all that stuff. And I was doing it just because I wanted to kind of figure it out. And I realized, hey, I didn't want to scale that service side of it. And I think I did another webinar and sold a couple more, and so it was nice cash flow. And I was like, all right, well, besides the service side, how do I productize this? And so versus just selling one campaign, well, why don't I just create a whole place where we can sell the campaigns? Because I think, when you look at, I think online business, or the way that I look at it is, I think going forward in business, everything is going to be kind of modularized. So if you want to add a webinar campaign, boom, you can add it into your business. If you want to add a referral campaign like Dropbox, boom, you can add that into your business. And so I think the playing field has been leveled, and it will be. It's going to be easier for new people to get into the market and to be up to speed the same way that you've been maybe for 3 or 5 years, right? But I think with technology and lead pages and Infusionsoft, anybody getting started can walk into the best systems. And so, kind of, I guess that foundation of Killer Campaigns was, we wanted to provide that for people. And so that's kind of where it all came from. Essentially, it's just doing a webinar. So.
And what have you learned kind of with the launch of Killer Campaigns, or what you've done with Killer Campaigns? I'm curious because it almost was a side project that really grew wings. It kind of just happened, and MVP to you just kind of did a webinar, you sold a few, realized you didn't want to do the service. So curious what kind of lessons you learned from that.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson I learned was just go and just test it. And so, I like to overcomplicate things just because I can do a lot of this stuff, and I know I've been in this industry for a while, and so I know kind of the perfect way to do it. Well, the perfect way to do it kind of slows things down a bit. But I think the biggest lesson was just like I kind of threw all that aside and said, well, what's the easiest way to test this? And it was just doing a webinar, because I knew I can get people to the webinar, and I knew that people wanted it. And so that was definitely the biggest lesson, was just like, just put it out there. If you have an idea, put a webinar together. And I remember going through Lewis Howes, who is a friend of mine. Actually, I met Lewis when he was just getting started, and it's pretty funny. It's pretty cool to see where he's built his business. And so I went through his Creative Live course, where he walked people through just like doing a webinar. And I think when you've been in the business for a long time, or you've been online, you think that you have to kind of perfect everything. And I kind of threw that aside and said, well, if I'm a new person, what would I do? What's the fastest way to implement it? And for me, it was just doing a webinar, generating sales. That told me that it was something to look forward to. And I think I wanted to get away from the service side, because it was manual, and so getting into a product side, you can scale it. And so I think that was now I can scale Killer Campaigns. I can drive traffic. It's not dependent on an individual to fulfill the product. It's boom, it's all self-serve, and they can get access to the content. So info publishing is awesome, because you can create it once and tell it forever. So it's cool.
And have you done anything moving forward with Killer Campaigns as far as promotion? You do some interviews here and there, and I'm sure people kind of naturally reach out to you, but have you done anything, paid ads or any outreach, content marketing, anything of that sort?
Not really, man. Honestly, I've done 2 internal launches. So, for our automized list, we have a good amount of Infusionsoft people there. On Call Loop, we have a decent sized Infusionsoft base there. And so I did 2 internal launches to actually, put together a launch, put it out there, and for the most part, that's pretty much done. So after I've tested it, I've tweaked it, I've got better metrics, we'll do an affiliate launch, and get all the affiliates in the marketplace, get the experts, the gurus, the product creators, the consultants, just kind of go out to the marketplace and get affiliates, get joint ventures in a culminated launch. The best part is the launch is already done, so it's not like and I've done some launches, and they're pretty stressful. And so fortunately, the launch is done, the content is done, and now it's just a matter of getting everyone to drive traffic. So honestly, I haven't done anything with it just because I'm busy with Call Loop, but it's kind of a nice project to work on, because once it's out there, then we can start driving traffic. We can do pay-per-click. We can just have affiliates drive traffic. And it's kind of like a little experiment for me, so I want to do some cool things with it. And yeah, just a lot of the stuff that I necessarily can't do with Call Loop, but I can do it with this. So.
And it gives you another arena to test your skills.
Yeah, and plus it actually funnels in customers for Call Loop. We have a lot of the campaigns in there, require text messaging or voice messaging, and so it opens people's eyes to saying and seeing that, wow, I can do text messaging here, I can do that, and so it's actually brought in some really good high caliber clients for us within Call Loop. So you can create like kind of a horizontal product line that don't talk to each other, but it's kind of pointless. So you want to create like a vertical to where each one of your products kind of feeds each other just up and down the chain. So that's a big lesson in just product creation. Go after how you can tap into each one of your lists to sell all your products to them. So
Very, very informative. Is there a reason why you went with the 1,500 price tag there? Because I mean
Not
that's
specifically.
pretty
I
expensive as
think.
far as information products go.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like these are immediate ROI products. So it's not like an ebook where you have to implement it. I mean, it's here's the campaign, now go and do it. And literally, I mean, the clients that we've seen, literally within 2 or 3 days, they've got a campaign done and they generate money. Like Joe, he generated $15,000 off cart abandons.
I think it's more than that now too.
Yeah, like way more than
Much
that,
more
right?
than
And
that.
so, to spend $1,500 for all of these campaigns, which I think is really cheap, it's really inexpensive based on the value and the revenue you're going to generate from these systems, right? And so, I think 1,400 was kind of like the sweet spot with it. I tested 1,900, and it was a little bit harder of a sell, and I think I just got to do better marketing or something. But when I was selling the webinar campaign, I sold that campaign alone for $1,500, and people paid for it, right? Because it's worth it. If you put one of these systems in your business and you can optimize and just double the revenue on a webinar, and you do that every time, 2, 3, 4 times a month, you're going to make more money. And so I was actually talking to a guy that was partners with. I wouldn't say partners with, but his clients were Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes. And so he's like, look, I could sell this for like $30,000, just the webinar campaign alone, to that marketplace, and they would pay for it. So to me, it's like, man, you can go out and sell this because it's the value of what it's going to provide to you. It's an automated system. So if I went out and actually got a higher client, I could probably sell it for $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. But I think as a product, and at that value, I think you'd have to add copy. You would have to do it all for them. I don't want to get into that business. And so at a product level, I think that's kind of like the sweet spot. Maybe I can pump it up to, maybe 2,500, 3,000. But you never, I can test it and we'll see what happens. But I think there's some tweaks to make even with the pricing. I'm not too sure that $14.97, because I have a whole world of other campaigns that we're going to be creating with plugins and all sorts of stuff, and so I got to figure out what the pricing model for all those new campaigns is, rather than you pay a one-time fee and you get campaigns for life, So I don't know if that's going to work.
It'd definitely be interesting to try to figure that out and structure it. Have you considered kind of a mastermind approach or putting these people together? Just because, I mean, if someone's buying a $50 product, right, the kind of people you're going to be mingling with aren't a big deal. But for something like this, that it is a $1,500 product, and people that put it into practice do see 15,000. What they see good return on investments. And these are more high caliber customers, for lack of a better term. I could see that there would be some value to being able to mingle with these other like-minded folks.
Yeah, good question. Honestly, I haven't thought that far.
Yeah.
I think we have a very small customer base, and so my
Small
thought
isn't always
was,
bad, though.
what's that?
Small isn't always bad when it comes to communities.
True. Yeah. I guess maybe the idea was, maybe in the next launch with the JV affiliate launch, adding more of those components to it. So kind of like, hey, a Facebook group, component, because there's a couple. It's not like it's huge where we have a lot of people, but I think, it definitely lends itself to a mastermind component to it, and maybe that is part of an upsell process. Honestly, I really haven't thought through how I want to structure this, just based on time.
Mm-hmm.
How deep do I want to get in with killer campaigns? But I think it's something I enjoy, and I think I'm definitely gonna do some really cool stuff with it. So I just haven't thought exactly what this looks like, just because I'm trying to, I don't know, just trying to get it going.
But even on a selfish level, I mean, I can see where that would kind of make it easy for people to throw up a photo and say, hey, I did this campaign, I did it this way, and I made this much, and then boom, you kind of have a case study testimonial. And then they can hopefully, I would say the ideal thing is that people are taking these different campaigns and they're posting and saying, hey, I did shop cart abandonment, but because my business is this way, I had to do it this way, and it worked better,
Right.
or how they're kind of tweaking it themselves.
Yeah, and we've seen that. I mean, everybody, it's, these are very, I wouldn't say generic, but any business can plug these in and it will work straight out of the box. So a buddy of mine, Daryl Urbanski, he works with John Assaraf, and they made $1.5 million off of the webinar campaign, right? So $1,500 ain't nothing, you know what I mean? So to them, and they built upon it, right? So they had this foundation, and then they had all the complexities of their own business that they wanted to add to it. So yeah, you make a very valid point. Everybody's business is different, plus they're adding new components to it, testing different strategies. Yeah. I think a Facebook group is in the works, I'll tell you that.
Well, and part of the reason why I say it, I had Adam Spiel on recently, and he sells a more high-level mastermind, and it's a similar thing, and there's a lot to that process. I think because you already have call loop, that you don't need another wife, so to speak. You already have one, and
Yeah.
it's more of your side hustle. But I could still see the value in where it wouldn't even be reliant upon you for that kind of engagement.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I like it.
we're talking about this. I have some other questions, but I feel like it would just be a tease to kind of be talking about these different campaigns and whatnot, not go into them a bit deeper. So I have the 7 different campaigns, so I'm going to touch on them briefly, and then I kind of want to break down, like, what are the 3 to 4 that you would kind of start with? Because, as we were talking about a little bit, some of these are a little bit more advanced, and depending upon where you are in your business, kind of depends on how important these are.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think, one is you have traffic and conversion, right? And then later I would say you have growth, right? Like, how do you grow that stuff? Very similar to your site. So, I would say if you're collecting orders, and first of all the stuff works with Infusionsoft, right? So if you use another platform, Killer Campaigns isn't really built for that. But I think the first thing to look at is, the order process. So if you can literally tweak your order page, come up with a better conversion system, you can basically probably double your conversions, right? If you double conversions, that means you double revenue. So the first thing you can do is start to set up, I like the GoDaddy Amazon campaign because, number one, it's so easy to set up. You can do a one-step checkout or you can do a two-step checkout. So a two-step is that cart abandonment sequence. So if somebody comes in, they go through step 1, and they put their name, their email address, their phone number, and then once they submit that, then they go to the order form and then submit the order. Or they don't, or if they bounce, then they get put into a cart abandonment campaign. So just by having that cart abandonment, just by collecting that information, now you can actually follow up with those people. So if somebody goes to a one-page checkout, well, there's really only 2 options. One is they actually order the product, and then you collect the information, or they bounce, and there's no other way for you to collect a name, an email, a phone number for you to follow up with. So all these people go to the page, and they just only have 2 options. So I like a 2-step checkout, but there's obviously better, a 1-step checkout works really well for like low-ticket products that they can just kind of rip through and place the order. But for high-ticket, I like a 2-step checkout.
Do you want to kind of give us a price range there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the cheaper. So if you have a free trial, 1-page checkout, $1, $7. I would say probably up to maybe $197, $297 in that range. And once you, I guess, go higher than that, you may want to test a 2-step checkout. Now, in many cases, some people may just go to the 2-step checkout page and not want to fill it out, right? So you kind of run up against that wall. But I think when you go to a higher price point, you want to position the 2-step checkout as a way for them to create their account. So on step 1 for call loop, And we do one-step, we do two-step checkout. We lean towards a one-step checkout now just because it converts better. But what I do for killer campaigns is step one, create your account. So first name, last name, email, phone, password, right? So they feel like they're getting value of actually doing that. And then once they do that, then they go to the order form. So if they don't follow through, then we throw them that. So yeah, so the GoDaddy, cart abandonment, and then upsells, one-time offers, downsells, that sort of stuff.
On the cart abandonment still a little bit, because Joe did touch on it some, and how he used basically kind of your methods, but how he was actually doing them and having a lot of success with them. And there's kind of two things that I want to touch on, because it seems like the two-step is better, but you said that you guys are kind of using the one-step. So I'm assuming there's some data involved there.
Yeah, I mean, what we found for us, because when somebody signs up for a trial, it's $1, right? So, get in, right? I mean, it's $1. So we just found that converted better, and this is over a long period of time that we tested it. So, we just found that a one-step works best, and that's where that whole price point thing comes in. Because if you go through and buy killer campaigns and you go through a two-step checkout, we collect your information, and it's a $1,500 product, so you may just bounce. I want to collect that info, and then if you bounce, I want to give you a call and talk to you on the phone and see what's up, right? And maybe, maybe you want to do a pay plan, or maybe you're not ready, whatever it is. But I want to give you a call, and maybe you just need to talk to me to get you over that hurdle to do that. And two-step worked for Joe, because again, you may not want to call your customers that bought for $1, right, or that bounced for $1 on a trial, but you may want to call the people that are in a buying a $97 product or a $297 product. I mean, even with Call Loop, you can do a voice broadcast, so you can automate that. You can do a text message, right? So if they give you a phone number, you can automate your email marketing, you can automate text, you can automate voice, you can do kind of that full 360 approach with everything.
And have you used website custom audiences or retargeting in this mix at all?
Not really, man. Honestly, no.
We gotta get you in. I'll have to connect you with Joe, or send you some stuff, because that's what's really awesome about website custom audiences. And I see part of what you're talking about with this marketing automation as almost the second, like the other piece to the puzzle. Because with a website custom audience, if someone lands on your one-step or your two-step, checkout page and they don't buy, you can retarget that person. And now instead of offering them, say it's normally $297 or $197, that's when your dollar trial comes in, or that's when you offer them a 30% off coupon, in that ad.
Right. Yeah, we don't do that. We don't do it. But I know we have to. It's just a matter of getting it done.
But I was just curious too, as far as in the context of the killer campaigns, whether that was part of it or not. Because that is another way too that people can use this kind of same methods and really get them going, maybe for a little bit cheaper, and it's a little bit easier system to kind of set up some Facebook ads, I would say, compared to setting up voice and all these other kind of follow-up means. So just wanted to check on that. So then you were also saying about the Amazon one-click upsells.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all know, at least from the internet world, right? You want to have a one-time offer, a one-click upsell, a downsell funnel, because at the end of the day, you're leaving money on the table, and it's interesting. But with killer campaigns, I actually don't have an upsell, and maybe the upsell could be a mastermind or one-on-one coaching. And the reality is, for me, it's a side business, but it's kind of implementing these things in that business. With Call Loop, I mean, we kind of put one-click upsells and bumps, which is another thing, right? Because you have real estate on your order page. One thing we do well that works really well for us is when somebody signs up for let's say a $49 membership per month. On our order form, we have a little checkbox, and that checkbox says, yes, I would like to save 15% and get the 12-month plan at $8.95 a month or whatever it is, right? Or $41.95. So what they actually do is they sign up for paying the annual fee with that one click. And so rather than getting somebody at $49 a month, we get them for the entire year on that 14-day trial. So 14 days later, rather than getting $49 a month and they may cancel in 3 or 4 months, we get the full $499 at the end of that 14-day trial. So it's awesome for cash flow. We've had a lot of customers that have used just that one little bump and have increased revenue 15-20%. That's without like a one-click upsell. That's just adding it on the form. And you can do it in an easy, kind of elegant way that can just, boom, add a bump in the order there. After that, you can do a one-time offer for coaching, consulting, maybe another product. And at the end of the line, if your front-end product is $97, maybe the bump is, let's say, $100, so there's $197. If there's a one-time offer, let's say another $200, you could have one order worth $500 versus just $97, right? So you'll grow a lot faster by implementing this stuff. So.
Gotcha. I'm curious as far as, because I know you talk about the upsells a decent amount, and I'm curious with the software side as far as churn is obviously a factor. But I wonder how well the annual billing kind of works. And so retention, I guess, is kind of what I'm more focused on here. Now, obviously, I would think the kind of answer here is that if someone's going to stick around when that annual rebill comes around, they're going to, they're using Call Loop, they're going to stick around. If they're not going to stick around. But
Yep.
I was just wondering your thoughts on that, because obviously cash flow, it's nice to get that money up front, but if your retention rates are good enough, then you do kind of want to get that long haul, and I worry that annual billing is a bit too jarring.
Yeah, I mean, we found that our retention is about 4 months. So for us, rather than getting 50 times 4, $200, let's get 500 today, right? So, and when it does come time to an annual rebill, I've talked to a couple people on kind of how to approach that. Mm-hmm. And so obviously, there's a couple ways to approach that. It's 12 months later. Maybe they are using the product, maybe they're not using the product, and next thing they know, they're getting hit for another $500. So leading up to that, maybe in a week, you can say, hey, your annual rebill is due to come available next week. The balance is $500, right? And you can kind of pre-frame that. And I've heard the other side of the coin where it's like, don't do anything. And if they complain, then go ahead and give them a refund. So yeah, there's both sides of the coin and how you want to approach it. What we do is we send an email a week before, and it says, hey, for example, for your keyword, whatever the keyword name is, for the annual subscription, it's $97. It renews next week on whatever date. And so we send that out to people, and they say they don't want it, or they keep it, and at least we notified them about that. So I'm not too worried about it, but I think at the end of the day, you got to look at what your retention is. So if you're retaining 3 months, why would you not want to get somebody to pay for the year? So now if they're staying for 5 years, why would you want to, but again, if your business is only 6 months old, you don't even know that data. So, but if you've been around for a couple of years and you're selling the same product and you know that retention is 4 or 5 years, then maybe you don't need to add that, right? But also, I mean, you look at Aweber. Aweber offers a quarterly and an annual purchase, and to them, it's all cash flow, right? So you can wait 2 years, right? Or you can wait a year to get that money, but why? Like, why not just get it now? Plus, you lock that customer in to actually use the product, so the retention is even longer at that point, right? Because it's easy just to cancel monthly.
Yeah.
So.
Very true. And I guess then the true answer is being more strategic about when the bill comes up.
Yeah. And again, if you're a new business, why would you not want to offer an annual purchase? It's cash, it's cash flow today. So
start with the one-click upsells and bumps and the cart abandons into cash. Now next, there's a few other things. So you have the viral referral program, perfect live webinar funnel, perfect automated webinar funnel, gamification for viral traffic, and automating your wow factor. So I'm wondering, Which of these comes into the mix next, would you say?
Yeah, I think webinars is the best, I mean, as far as driving traffic and then conversion, right? So, a webinar is a conversion component. So it's also great for lead gen. A lot of people think that a webinar is just to host a product webinar. And it's so interesting, you talk to companies that don't come from the marketing world and don't understand that webinars are actually amazing sales tools where you can convert 30, 40, 50%. And they use them just as product like demos, and that's fine. Use it as a product demo, but sell your product on there. Make people a special offer. Once they become a customer, then do product kind of customer success webinars to show them how to better use the product. So, on the front end for people that are just getting in, do webinars, right? And what we have for Call Loop is we have a simple getting started with Call Loop webinar. It's an automated webinar. It drives sales every Tuesday and Thursday. So we generate sales and trials every single Tuesday and Thursday. And so we have people, they can choose a 12, they can choose a 3, they can choose an 8 p.m. Webinar. So we cover all the bases on those both days. So they can sign up for that, and we do make a special offer there. So it's different than what they'll see on the website. And so we get a lot of people that do that. And so I think the first thing to do, once you've gotten your order process figured out, so now all those leads that you put through, you're going to maximize the revenue that comes out of that system. So with a webinar, you can do a live webinar, and we have a whole kind of optimized perfect webinar funnel for that. And what that means is there's really 3 stages to it. So you have your sign-up stage, which is getting people to register. You have your show-up stage, which is you got to get people to actually show up, right, to generate sales. And then you have like the pay-up stage, right? And so getting people to actually convert to become a client or customer or whatever. And the first stage, the sign-up, there has to be a good hook. There's got to be a good reason why people are actually going to register for this and then be excited about wanting to attend. And early on in Killer Campaigns, I actually charged people $20 to attend a webinar. And it was a 2-hour webinar. I went through all these different components of it where I offered immense value, and this paid webinar actually was a sales tool for us. So we got money up front, and we actually sold Killer Campaigns in the back end, and it worked really well. And that will be now automated for the most part. So you've got that whole front end part. Now, the attendance part is you got to get people to actually show up. And I've done webinars, and maybe you've done webinars, Sweeney, with you get 500 people that register, and like 30 people show up. And if you're doing it with like a joint venture partner, it's embarrassing. It's like, oh my gosh, man, you go through all this work, you want to make this thing work, and no one shows up. And most people drop the ball because, number one, they've kind of screwed up on part one, but number two is they're just relying maybe on GoToWebinar's emails. And if you're just doing that, you're just relying on one channel. And so what you want to do is you want to stack your channels. So you have email, you have voice broadcast, you have text messaging, maybe you can do direct mail postcards, maybe you can do Facebook ads, right, with retargeting and all that stuff to get people to show up, because the more people you get to show up, the more eyeballs, more people will see your presentation, and essentially the more money you're going to make, right? And so, with Killer Campaigns and the automated and live webinars we do, all of that is totally automated. So we send the emails 15 minutes before, we send a text message 30 minutes before, we send a voice broadcast to drive attendance. And then, on the last part, you have the pay up, and so there's going to be people that are going to show up and bail early, so maybe they stay on for like 3 minutes or 10 minutes. So we want to put them into a specific sequence, right, and follow up with them differently versus the person that stayed until the end and they stayed for an hour, they saw the offer and they didn't buy, right? The messaging is going to be different to those folks. And then also you have people that just aren't going to show up. And so what are you going to send to those people? And the easiest thing to do is actually record the webinar and send out a replay. I know with us, and probably with you guys, with a lot of people, is actually, we generate and upwards of 50% of the revenue on a replay, right? Because we just know not everyone's going to show up. They really wanted to get it, but whatever happened, they just couldn't make it. And so we can send them a replay, and we can drive more sales that way. So record it and send out the replay to these people to actually get the information to then buy your product. So yeah, I would say webinars. I mean, start with a live one because you want to do a couple live ones to kind of get your messaging, kind of tweak your slides. Once you've got it working, then you automate it. And so with Killer Campaigns, I was doing a live webinar and selling the original kind of webinar campaign just from a presentation that I put together, and that worked, right? And then it's been an evolution and changed it, and then I charged the $20 for a webinar. And now what we'll do is actually sell a $7 webinar. They'll get that webinar and they'll get that content. Well, guess what? Now that is a front-end revenue source. Affiliates want to promote it because now they can generate money on the front end. Maybe we give away 100% commissions to them on the front, and then hey, on the back end is actually we offer the product, and so they can make commissions there as well. And so there's so many different ways to drive traffic and attract leads, and I think tripwire is kind of the term now, but back then, a couple of years ago, and Ryan Dice I think kind of created all this stuff, right? So you had self-liquidating offers. Yeah, so you have a $7 report, you got a $7 webinar, you have all that stuff, and I think a webinar is the best way to convert. It's the easiest way because people get on a presentation and we generate 10-15% conversion. My buddy Ryan gets like a 50% conversion off a webinar, which is insane. So sales letters work, webinars work insanely well. And we actually created a technology for teleseminars. So we have a platform called autoteleseminar.com. So if you don't want to do a webinar, you can now take it to the audio and just do a conference call. So automate that. Why not, right?
Now for webinars, so I have a few questions here from what you've told me. I'm interested. So for when you charge, because I've heard about paid webinars before compared to just free webinars. You've seen that it works out conversion-wise, that it still makes more sense that say you only have 100 people that pay compared to 300 people that might sign up. Or
yeah, because there's value in it, right? Like it's so funny. I was talking to somebody the other day.
Differently too, because if you pay for something, you're probably going to show up compared to.
You're going to value the information. You're going to treat it differently. You're going to attract a better client because they're skin in the game, right? Like they paid you money. And so my buddy Travis Ketchum at Contest Domination, I was talking to him at InfusionCon. He's like, dude, I created this free course. I gave it away for free, and like no one actually went through the content. And then I charged $10, right, or whatever it was, and now all these people are actually going through it. They're using it. They're providing feedback. And so there's a lot to be said about value, and I didn't want to create a free webinar, give away all this awesome stuff for free. A $20 bill, and that's what I put in the sales order, was like a $20 bill, and that was it. And so I actually split tested $20, $10, $5, because I actually showed the dollar bill on the sales page because you can't show a $15 bill, right? So $20, $10, $5. And I think the sweet spot's $10, right? And so there's value in it, and if you can go above and beyond, you'll convert. And we actually generate a lot more sales that way. So I think any webinars going forward will be a paid webinar, specifically for for Killer Campaigns, because it's good. There's good content, and I don't want to give it away for free.
I think too, by kind of adding in that layer, that if you are doing some sort of paid traffic or paid media, it's probably a lot easier to dial into who your customers are going to be, and what targeting is going to work well. Because if you're just, I imagine, I don't know Infusionsoft as well as you do, but I imagine it's probably a lot more complex to try to connect that. All right, targeting people that like this specific page, got this many registrations, and out of those registrations made this many sales, compared to just kind of instantly seeing, all right, this many people are willing to pay, and out of the people that pay, I know I'm going to convert it this much.
Right. And the cool thing too is, like, again, if you are spending money, and you need a front end to break even, right, with your costs or whatever. It's a great way to pay for your advertising. Now, obviously, on a $1,500 product, you don't need a lot of people to make up for the cost, right? But if you've got a low-end product, maybe you charge money, right, to get that front-end acquisition. And so even from affiliates, affiliates want to generate money today. And so how can you provide them a way to generate money today? How can you provide them a way to recoup maybe their costs with advertising and that sort of stuff? I remember seeing a funnel from the guys from Infusionsoft, and they did a bunch of different testing, and they realized that they needed, they had a 30-day trial. Well, the problem is affiliates don't want to wait 30 days to see if people actually purchase. So in their process, they had, the first page was like a registration, which is basically an opt-in form. The second page was like, hey, here's, choose your plan. And they would choose, they had a whole decoy effect, and it was $197 a month is what about 90% of people bought. It was 97, 197, and then 197, or 297 with the scratch out. This is 197, right? A whole decoy effect. So everybody went for, the 197. So after they bought that, well, guess what the next upsell was? Hey, I'm going to give you this bonus and this bonus and this bonus if you make your first payment today. So that was the problem, was they needed to give affiliates money today because they didn't want their affiliates to wait 30 days to get the money. So boom, you get these bonuses if you make your first payment today of 197, and then after that, then they had a full upsell funnel with it. And so I don't know what brought that up, but if you have a 30-day trial, get them to upgrade, pay that first payment today. So you can get the money, and so you can monetize your ad spend, plus your affiliates can make the cash right on the front. So.
Gotcha. And obviously you talk about having the perfect live webinar funnel and the perfect automated webinar funnel. Now, it kind of goes without saying that you have to do a webinar before you can automate it. But I'm curious, because you say that you do run automated webinars, so is it more of a do a few perfect live webinars to get them under your belt and then have them set up as an automated, or does it just depend on the business and the offer?
Yeah, I mean, I like to do a live webinar first, just to kind of get it out, just to test it, because again, you may not know what'll work, and you don't want to automate something that isn't working, right? It's like, oh, cool, yeah, I've got to automate it, but it doesn't work. So, I think the best way to go about it is do some live webinars, tweak it, test it, figure out the offer, and just kind of tweak it so you can get your conversions up. Now, if you want to just move quick and just automate it, fine. Yeah, you can record a webinar, and then just automate it, right? But if you want to kind of go back, take a step back, and get the best conversions, I like to do them live. I think they're a lot of fun to do it live because you take questions, and you can learn a lot from the people. And so, after you do it live, you kind of figure it out, then you can automate it, or at least that's what I like to do, right? So.
And have you found anything particular? I'm curious on two angles. With the $7 kind of pre-sale, or what you want to call it, then you have their information. So I would assume that would boost conversions. And I'm also curious as to when it comes to this specific offer that you offer on the webinar, because whether you want to use Call Loop as an example or talk a bit more general, is there a way that you position the offer? Is it 30% off now for the annual? Is it $58 off, or is it get these bonuses? I'm curious in the positioning of the offer as well.
So the positioning on the actual webinar, you mean?
Yeah, like just how because it's a different offer than what they'd see on the website typically.
Right.
So I'm curious if you guys have found it work.
Yeah. So I believe, and this was a while ago, but I believe with that webinar is $20. I think I sold it for $9.97, so the price was $14.97, and then I gave them $500 off for being on the webinar. Now, obviously, the price is going to increase, and I think $19.97 may be the new price, if it's not a launch or anything like that. But the new price will be $19.97 for coming to the webinar. Here's here's $500, and you can get $500 off when you order on this webinar at this specific time, or during this kind of bulk here. So yeah, I mean, I definitely offer some sort of bonus, right? Because what's the purpose of them attending if you're not going to make them kind of tip over and become a client? So that's typically, and I think with Call Loop, and I recorded it maybe a year and a half ago, so it's been a while. But the special offer we make is, rather than drop the price, we just give more credits. So rather than saying, hey, instead of $49 a month, it's $39, I just say, hey, it's $49 a month, but you'll get an extra 250 messages. So we don't lose the actual revenue. The cost is negligible for us to add those extra messages, and that's if they actually use them, right? So rather than dropping our price $10, we just give more value. We just give more credits. So, and maybe some things you can do too is make some unannounced bonuses. So what I like to do in like a follow-up sequence is actually like stack. I remember Frank Kern calls it like stack the cool, but like stack the bonuses. Every day you just kind of stack a new bonus, stack a new bonus, stack a new bonus. So they've got 4 or 5 different bonuses in the follow-up sequence, and there's a lot of really great stuff that they can get. So.
And I know we are getting close on time here, so I'll kind of close out. As far as it seems like when it comes to the webinar itself, you're going to have the leads filter into people that didn't show up, which seems pretty easy. You just send them the replay. People that showed up for a short period of time, so let's say under 5 minutes, under 15, and then people that watched but didn't buy. So I'm curious as to how you approach those other 2 segments.
Yeah, so the good thing with technology is when you do a live webinar or even an automated one, you can pull back. Specifically, if you do a live webinar on GoToWebinar, which is the platform we use, so when you do a live webinar on GoToWebinar, they give you an attendance report, which will show basically the minutes that people stayed. So Sweeney, you stayed for 15 minutes. I didn't show up. Another person stayed for like 67 minutes. Well, if I know that my webinar is maybe 70 minutes long, well, I can then calculate, okay, well, they didn't show up, they go here. If he stayed 15 minutes, he goes and bailed early. If he stayed for 45 minutes plus, put them into the SAW offer sequence. And so all that stuff can be automated, and it is automated with software. So basically, when we do a webinar, after the webinar is over, the software goes out and it pulls back the attendance report that GoToWebinar provides. So it'll automatically go through all the people, and based on the length of stay, we'll put them into the appropriate sequence. So you stayed for 0 minutes, you go no-show. You stayed for 15, you go and bailed early. You stayed in 45 minutes or greater, you go in, saw the offer. And each of those are different sequences. So, if you stayed to the end, well, what I can do with Infusion is not only send you, maybe an email with kind of just a recap of the offer with the bonuses, but also I can create an opportunity in Infusionsoft to give to a sales rep, right? Because who's the best people to reach out to? Well, it's the people that stay the longest. That's the hottest lead. So let's give those people to our salespeople to contact them to find out what's up, what's going on. Contact these people first, then go back to maybe the bailed early people, right? Maybe a day later or something like that. And so, it's just you want to talk to them differently. You don't want to blast somebody that didn't show up and just buy now when they don't know what you're talking about. They've never been to your webinar. They have no clue what it's about. They need the information to make the decision. And so you can drive them to a replay. And I'm sure that works well for you guys and for Joe. And that's the easiest way to do it, right?
Gotcha. So start with those hottest leads and kind of reach out to them personally, maybe, and kind of see what's going on, or give them some sort of point of contact.
Yeah, or even you just call them, right? Because you're collecting the phone number. Like whenever we have a registration form for a webinar, and first of all, if we already have your information, we're going to send you from that email to the registration page and pre-fill your name, your email, everything, so you don't have to fill it in. You just click a button. Now, we always ask for mobile phone because we want to send a text message and we want to send a voice broadcast. If you just say phone, well, they may put in their landline, they may put in their office phone number, but if you say mobile phone, well, now you can actually send them a text. You can't send a text to a landline, right? So we always ask for that. Well, cool, now we got your phone. If you stayed on, that information goes to our sales rep and they can call you on the phone, right? Rather than just sending you emails and hopefully capturing your phone number. Just collect it on the front and make it a value for them to give you the phone. So.
Gotcha. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. I know, like I said, time here is kind of running out. As far as the best way to reach you, I'm pretty sure Call Loop or Automize It. Is there any other?
Yeah, I mean, the best way, I have a blog, but I haven't written anything on there in like 3 years. It's really crazy. But yeah, so the best thing is chris@callloop.com. It's 3 L's. Or you can check out automizeit.com. But yeah, that's it. I don't write much on the web, but
I know you were just at the Infusionsoft conference. Do you have any cool things you learned, or one specific?
Oh man, I've got a whole notebook of things. I think I've learned I don't know. One cool thing I learned about recently, it wasn't at InfusionCon, was to use email receipts as kind of like Dropbox, like a referral program. So if you have a referral program, give people their link in the receipt and have them share it, right? So turn receipts into profit centers or traffic drivers. We send a lot of receipts, and it hit me that, oh my gosh, I'm not using those as sales tools. I'm not using those as ways to generate more traffic. I'm not ways to turn people into affiliates. Like that can be, a great way to drive sales. I know a buddy of mine does 1,000 sales a day, and he doesn't have anything in his email receipts. So you're sending 1,000 emails a day from people that are going to open it. So add that in. I thought that was pretty cool. So something super simple to do, and you can start to reap the rewards from it pretty quickly.
Awesome. Well, no, I really like that. And it's one of those areas where if you're not doing anything at all currently, anything you add in is going to be a greater return than what you're currently doing.
Yeah. So do something. But
yeah. All right. Well,
cool,
thanks
man.
for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it, and I hope everyone got some good value.
I'm sure. All right. Take care, man.
All right. See ya.